All right. It is another Sunday night live. I have a great topic for you guys tonight. All right. Let's let you guys jump in here. And we are talking microplastics. So, this is we hear about this, we hear about it, you know, over and over, and yet I'm going to distill it down for you because sometimes I feel like some of these subjects you can't hear it enough. So, all right, it is a beautiful day. We had the time change, and I hope everyone's surviving that. So, do you do better when you jump forward or when you fall back? I'm super curious. I tend to thrive in with it just like this. So, yeah. Okay. Let me, all right. Looking live right there. And bring up my live over here. My channel. Oh, that there. Okay, got it. All right, here we go. All right. Okay. Idaho Garden Girl, how are you? You are number one. Nice to see you in here. We are talking microplastics. You're going to love this because we're also talking hormones and all the ways plastics can mess us up. So, all right. So I'm still kind of just have a little bit of a cough left over from a couple weeks ago, just real mild. So I may be muting frequently just to get a little of the crud out. So, okay, awesome. So we're going to jump right into it. So we're talking about microplastics. So here's the deal. There was a study. This was in 2000 and actually this one is 2004. There was another study in 2003, and these studies found microplastics in human brains. And the way that it worked was that they were studying they were doing autopsies and looking for the microplastics in the brains of these deceased people. And so yes, so this I'm going to talk about that, how plastics are literally everywhere. They're so hard to avoid. And then when you start paying attention, you're like, yeah, what do I do? So Mad Chick Acres, how are you? Nice to see you in here. Which, by the way, you asked me for something a few months ago. Went to your page, couldn't find a way to contact you. I told you to email me. You said you did, but I never got the email. So I don't know where it's coming from. So anyway, if you remember what that was all about, I think it was light or something like that. Feel free to email me again. So I did not ignore you. But I did look for the email. I did not see it. Red light therapy. Yes, got it. Okay, yeah, if you can, let me drop my email one more time. And like I said, I went and I looked. I didn't see anything. Checked my trash. So so there, would love to provide you with that resource. Okay, so with these microplastics, so here's what happened. So they did these autopsies on people, and they found that there was an accumulation of the microplastics in the brain, and that the people who had the most accumulation, so everyone had microplastics in their brain, but the people who had the most accumulation were the people who died from Alzheimer's, dementia, Parkinson's, and other brain issues like that. So we have to really be paying attention to the plastics in our environment. And in tonight's episode, what we're going to be talking about is the exposure. So how are we exposed to all of these things? Where do they come from? You know, how can we pay attention to them? So as Idaho Garden Girl is saying that, you know, she's like, it's everywhere and I'm trying to avoid it. So we're going to talk about controlling the controllables. And then of course, we'll end up talking about what you can do in order to be able to mitigate some of the exposure to that. So so in this study, this was actually pretty cool because plastics are found everywhere. They've found microplastics in cord blood of pregnant women. They find them in men's testicles. Fertility rates are half of what they used to be 50 years ago. So microplastics have a highly detrimental effect on our health. So it's really, really important that we pay attention to this. So let me get over to my notes here and let's talk about go here. Okay. Um, so just want to talk about some statistics. So when we look at Alzheimer's and dementia, the accumulation of microplastics in the brain has gone up 50% from 2016 to 2024. So it really has become a massive problem. And then when we look at Alzheimer's and dementia, so 20 years ago, there was 150,000 deaths from Alzheimer's and dementia. And then compare that to 2024 when it was tripled. It was over 450,000 deaths from Alzheimer's and dementia. So it really is skyrocketing. Hey, Silly Lily, welcome in. Thanks for being here. And, I think about when I was a kid and Alzheimer's and dementia, Parkinson's, that was if you came across somebody that had some kind of neurodegenerative brain issue like that, it was like, wow, oh, wow, that's crazy. But it's not like now, it's not the norm. And so, it's estimated that 40% of people will get Alzheimer's and dementia as they start to age. And that's not okay. Hey, Bill, welcome in. Nice to see you here. So this, it's not okay. We have to really be paying attention. Because it's only getting worse. And I mean, if you want to get to the end of the line with all of your faculties about you, then we have to really minimize the exposure. And it is everywhere. So let me get into, so how do we get it? How do we get it into the body? How does it get into the body? So the first thing that I'm going to talk about is inhalation. So we inhale it. It's everywhere. So it's outside, it's being pumped through from different factories and it's in the air and it's from, airplane exhaust. It's everywhere. So those are things we can't control. You cannot control what somebody is going to be spraying into the air. But then the other way we inhale it is through dust particles. So, making sure that you're taking care of your home, dusting, vacuuming regularly so we can get exposure from that. But other things that are inhalants are things like Glade plugins and aerosols, sprays, hairsprays, perfumes, dyes, your laundry detergent, all of those scents, they actually have these plasticizers in them. And then we breathe them in and those particulates go into the body. And then the body then sends them up to the brain. Now, the brain is protected by what's called the blood-brain barrier. And so that's a protective sheath of sorts that protects chemicals and harmful things to get into the brain. But these particles, these plastics are called nanoparticles. So they are so fine that they cross into the brain and then they settle in there and they hang out and then they cause us all kinds of problems. So they can get in just by breathing things in. And so we have to pay attention to what is in our environment. We don't need Glade plugins. We don't, we can use non-toxic forms of laundry detergent, your dryer sheets. Those are all plastics that you're putting on your clothes. You're breathing it in and then you put them on your body. And so we're going to talk about contact in a minute. Just trying to see your comments here. Wife loves the scented laundry detergent. I know the smell of the dryer sheets. It's crazy. It really gets to be like, whew, that's a strong one. Gives me a headache, right? Mad Chick Acres says only had 1 R in email. Okay, got it. All right, good. I'm glad it wasn't me because it could be. All right, perfect. And hey, Ken, nice to see you. is there a way to cleanse the plastics from the body? We're going to get there. So you're going to have to hang out a little bit till we get to the solution. So I'm just laying out the problem at this point in time. So letting you know where are we getting the exposure. And of course, Ken, knowing what you do for a living, you're near a lot of stuff, a lot of toxic chemicals. So definitely, pay attention. So I know, silly Lily, the detergent aisle is like, it's rough, isn't it? I had to go to the mall yesterday, and walking through that perfume aisle was like, oh, I held my breath as I went through it. It is just overwhelming. Or the tire aisle. There you go. There's some plastics for you too that you're inhaling. Um, so um, so inhalation, people don't really think about, like, your scents and the dyes. We don't think about those as having plastics in them, but it's a must pay attention to for sure. And then before we get to food, I want to talk about what we put on our bodies. So a lot of body care products have plastics in them. Now we put things on our body, and then our pores are there, they open up, and we can absorb these things right into our bloodstream. So that's another way that we get things in, is from soaps and lotions and shampoos and conditioners, and just all your basic body care products. And so that's where, really finding some non-toxic forms of body care products will be really helpful. The Environmental Working Group, their website is amazing. Let me drop the, I can't spell. There we go. So ewg.org is just a great site, and they've got like a little widget that you can go in and you can put in your product, and then it'll tell you, like, it'll literally show you skull and crossbones. So, or it'll tell you if it's good. So it has these ranking systems for your body care products. So I highly recommend using that. And then the other thing, as far as what goes on your body, is your clothes. So synthetic clothing. So this is where the workout clothes are really taking a hit right now, because we wear Lululemon, we wear Lycra and spandex, and we called it spandex back in the day, right? I'm aging myself, but um, so we put these on our body, and even just think about, like, your underwear. Like, is your underwear cotton? A lot of underwear is made from, like, polyester, and there's plastics in there, and that's sitting next to some very sensitive areas. If you have polyester shirts, and then you're sweating, and then of course your workout clothes, and you go and you sweat, and what happens is it causes the plastics to get released from the clothing, and now your pores are open, and now you have more opportunity to absorb in the plastics from your clothing. So really want to encourage you, try wearing cotton as much as you possibly can. And of course, cotton underwear all day long. So let's see. And Chick says, tires wear out on the roads. Where does all the rubber dust go and the brake dust? Oh my gosh, that's a great one. I didn't even think about that one. And that's like outside, right? So that's where we can't control that. So what you can control is, what kinds of things are you putting on your body? What kinds of things are in your home? And then, keeping the dust levels down, making sure you're working your best to keep the toxins down in your home. Now, Silly Lily says, I've stopped using any of the typical lotions, potions. Over 60% of what you put on your skin is absorbed into your body. And this is so true. And so that's why I dropped that EWG link for you guys, so you can look up what you're using. I have some of my favorites. I'm happy to share. If you want to drop me an email, I can send you what I like. But then it's always fun too to go to that site and see exactly. You're like, oh my God, it's pretty much an eye opener. So, and cotton, wool, linen is all I use. Need to read the labels. Yeah. I love cotton and wool. I love linen, but oh my gosh, I just don't like that it's so wrinkly. I don't want to have to iron, but I love linen. So Yeah. But yeah, paying attention to what we're putting on our bodies is just as important as what we put in our bodies. So now let's talk about what we put in our bodies. So our foods, like in general. So when we think about things in, if you're buying salad dressing in a plastic bottle, it's got microplastics. I did a video on Kerrygold butter and the wrapper. There's plastics in the wrapper, but and there was the study that I had read that I did the video on. It's not just limited to Kerrygold. That just happened to be the one they studied. Anything that has that like plastic wrapper is going to have microplastics in it. But it's not just from that wrapper. So anything, so butter and milk and yogurt and anything that has to go through plastic tubing to get into its container is also going to have microplastics. So our food system is filled with these microplastics. So yeah, and then Mad Chick says everything is in plastic. It's hard to find anything. And unless you take like your own cotton or linen bags to the grocery store to put your vegetables in. I use the plastic bags and then I bring them home and then I take them out. And sometimes I'll just wrap them in like a paper towel, which also has plastics in it, but it's less. Like it's like we just can't avoid it. So when we think about what we're eating, even if you buy, so I started making my own yogurt because I make my own yogurt and then it goes into a jar. It's in a glass jar. It does not sit in the plastic. I just feel like, the more you can do, like we want to eat yogurt because it's healthy for us, but then if it's sitting in plastic, then what's that doing? And then other things like the, like paper plates, plastic forks, all of that stuff needs to go bye-bye. Hey, Rick, welcome in. Nice to see you on a Sunday. So the plastic there's like that wax coating, that shiny coating that's on plastic utensils or like paper plates. That's all plastic. So you put your hot food on there and now you're eating that plastic. Your carryout containers, the black plastic carryout containers, those are actually made from old electronics, recycled electronics into carryout containers. Then you take your hot food, this delicious food, wherever it's from, and it goes into that carryout container. And now you've just put lead, heavy metal, and all the other toxic chemicals from those recycled electronics in your food. Like it's crazy. So you want to try not to eat out as much as possible, but if you have to, you just have to, like get it home and immediately take it out of that container and put it onto a, your glass dish. Silly Lily says, University of YouTube has taught me how to make my own yogurt, sour cream, butter, cream cheese, cottage cheese, and next is cheeses. I store in glass. I've saved so much money as well. I love that. I would love to learn how to make cottage cheese because we do a lot of cottage cheese as well. And then I also would like to learn how to make actual cheese. So I'm venturing into that. I still have to find and butter, like all those things. Oh my gosh. I'm going to have to tap into your skills. Yeah. So trying to get a hold of some raw milk so I can do that. It feels so much better having done that yourself, doesn't it? You're like, it tastes that much better. Okay. So then, so your food. So yeah. So any of your food that it's at home, just thinking about it probably already has plastics in it. So what's, minimal, the most minimal way to expose yourself to that. And I still haven't quite figured out a great way to store like, I freeze like my peppers and stuff from the garden, like at the end of the season, things that I haven't canned. And I do put them in a Ziploc bag because I just haven't really figured out a great way to do that. So, there's still some of that going on, but at the very least, do not get rid of your microwave if you can, but if you put something in the microwave, don't use a paper plate. Don't use plastic. Don't use frozen dinners that are in plastic that then you put and you heat up. Don't heat things in plastic bags. My gosh, these people who buy the plastic roasting bags for a turkey, and then you cook a whole turkey or a chicken inside of a plastic bag. I'm like, yeah, oh my gosh. And I've done that where I've gone to people's homes for dinner and I'm like, oh my God, you just took that most amazing chicken or turkey or whatever it is, and you cooked it in a plastic bag, like crazy town. That plastic's not meant to do that. So, you just imagine, like, what are the chemicals inside that plastic bag that are allowing it to be heated to a temperature for that long period of time that it's not melting, it's not destroying. All of that is going into your food. That is just crazy town. Start with farmer's cheese, then work your way up from there. Yes, that's my plan. That is my plan. So it gives me a sense of accomplishment and control over what you put in your body. It certainly does. And I made sourdough today. I no longer actually want to eat bread now. I never wanted to eat it because it was all like crappy stuff. But I made my own sourdough, I've been loving putting some organic pumpkin in there, and that's really lovely. And yes, even I know. Can you imagine liquor and anything that is acidic that's in a plastic bottle? No. And not that we drink for our health, but if I'm buying liquor, it's going to be in a glass bottle. I don't use microwaves, never trusted the technology. Truth, right? We got rid of ours a few years ago. Mine broke, and my daughter she said, let's see if we can see how long we can go without a microwave. We haven't missed it. We literally haven't missed it, haven't skipped a beat. We heat things in a pan on the stove. If I have to reheat my coffee, I just use my cappuccino machine, or I throw it in a little pot on the stove and I reheat it. I have found that it's not a time saver, not for me. You figure out ways to do things. You just time things a little bit differently. Yeah, I don't need a microwave. We're doing just fine without it. The roasting bags, they make life convenient so you don't have to clean the glass baking dish. Great, right? Yeah, I know. You're like, oh, right. Yeah, I don't have to clean up. But now we just ate all that plastic. Sourdough's the only bread I eat now. No bloating anymore. It's so wonderful. I saw a study. I have to dig out the study. I saw a video talking about the study. Let me say that. So I have to go search the study. And it talked about sourdough bread, and when pregnant women or lactating women eat sourdough bread, there's some of the good healthy bacteria in sourdough bread goes straight to the nipple, and then the baby nurses, and that it's so beneficial for the baby's digestion. You just think about how incredible the human body is, and that how does this bacteria know that it needs to go to the breast to feed a baby? That's the kind of stuff that is that's awesome, pretty outstanding. So just, again, when we're talking about food and what we're ingesting, we really just want to be super mindful of where that is coming from. Even your spices in plastic jars, right? So buy your spices in glass jars. It's all about the biology. Yes, it is, isn't it? Yes. Yeah, great show. That interview that I did with Ken just popped up on my channel. So that was so fun to talk to him about that. So what else let me check my notes here. Sourdough from the store is crap breathing. I know. And it's sold in a plastic bag. Yeah, for sure. I did find there was one, it's still in a plastic bag, but there's one brand they made it here in Michigan, and it's sold in the store, and it is wild. They use wild yeast. So I'm like, that's what I used to buy before I started making it myself. So, but holy moly, people are charging, a lot of money for a loaf of sourdough bread. I'm like, and my daughter's like, you should make it and sell it. I'm like, I probably should / could in my free time. Okay, so let me just go through so we talked about inhalation, we talked about ingestion. Oh, sea salt, that was another one. So a lot of sea salts we have to be mindful of have microplastics in them, and a lot of spices actually have microplastics in them. So we have to really watch that. It's probably something we need to look up on Environmental Working Group. Uh, there's a salt company. So I went and I toured I didn't we didn't go in the mine, but we toured the grounds, and it was in West Virginia. It was the coolest thing. And they get their salt water from it's 600 feet down, and it's an old like the waterway, whatever you want to call it, is older than like the Atlantic Ocean. Like it's a super ancient waterway. And so they dig down, they get their salt water from deep down, and then they bring it up and then they process it. So, and then it's processed in stainless steel containers, that like dried and stuff. So, so you do have to find, really search for that, because we use a ton of salt in our house. So there's a lot of microplastics in just your regular old salt. I put a video on Chef Tech 86 on spice grinders. Oh, the plastic goes, oh goodness, I'm gonna have to go look at that one. Okay. I didn't even think about that. Like, again, like we start to become aware of all the different places that plastics can be. Honestly, I get sick of sourdough bread, have plenty to go through in my freezer. Yeah, that's why I usually make it week to week. And then like I'll use the discard and I'll make something something fun out of that. So, is there a source I trust for salts and spices? Yeah. So the one, I forgot what the name of let's see, salt in West Virginia. J.D. Dickinson. Really, really cool place. If you're ever in West Virginia, it's beautiful, beautiful grounds. I do Salt Mine Aquifer. Is that what it's called? I was like, I don't know what it's called, but yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for the education on that one. Yeah, so I like that one. I do buy, I buy the Costco salt, but that's still one of those where I'm like, I don't know that I trust it, because they just call it pink salt, and I don't really know where it comes from. So I need to do my due diligence and see if Costco's salt is actually worth the salt. But then the other salt I get is Redmond, and that comes from the salt flats. So I did hear some sketchy things about Redmond, but I can't quite recall what that was. So I have to go back and look at that too. Again, we can't, it's so hard to avoid it. Let me go back to my notes here. Food, water, sea salt, and we talked about the olfactory nerve. So this was interesting also in this study, was that they found a lot of concentration of the microplastics in the olfactory nerve, that's your sense of smell. So when you smell, that's the olfactory bulb, the olfactory nerve, that's your sense of smell. And so they found a high concentration of microplastics in the olfactory centers. So that just tells you that a lot of what we're breathing in is going in, and it's right here, you guys. It doesn't even need to go through it's like it straight up into your brain, right through the nose. We buy the spice blends in a plastic grinder, but then I dump them into a glass grinder with ceramic grinding plates. That's a great idea. I love that idea. I buy them already ground, but it's probably, we think about, okay, how did they get ground? Did they get ground with, stainless steel blades or what? So yeah. Am I microplasticking myself from my spices? But I think there was a study last year. I did a video on it. Maybe it was 2 years ago. I have to go back and look at that one. And it showed that there was toxins in just about every spice. It didn't matter if it was cheap, if it was expensive, if it was like organic, if it was a Whole Foods brand, if it was like, it did not matter. It's just kind of all over. Sourdough can be used to make your typical bread items, pizza dough, pretzels, scones. I know. I did biscuits. I think that's discard. Oh God, the biscuits were to die for. Oh my goodness. I'm gonna need to make some more biscuits now. And let's see, there has to be a method to detox. Okay. All right. Yes, there is. Okay. So just laying down the pathway here. But let's talk about, so when this happens, so here's how it affects the body. So we get inflammation of the brain and the nervous system. And that's how this chronic inflammation in the brain can trigger things like Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, multiple sclerosis. It can even cause things like migraine headaches. So people who have migraine headaches probably have some level of toxic load in the brain that's causing brain inflammation. And so taking the Emitrex or the, regular, taking medication regularly for a migraine when you really need to be detoxing from it is going to be more beneficial. And then all of these plastics are hormone disruptors. So hormone disruptors they're going to affect everything. So it's going to affect, a lot of women, perimenopause, menopause. It affects fertility in women. And then of course, men, it affects sperm count. So it lowers sperm count. 40%, 50% of men, half of men today have 50% of the sperm they had 50 years ago. So it's crazy how these plastics are causing so much hormonal and neurological damage to us. So, and then of course, oxidative stress. Oxidative stress is all the processes in your body, they are a chemical reaction. And if there's nothing to buffer that creates what's called oxidative stress, and it causes tissue damage. That's why when we talk about antioxidants, vitamin A and E and vitamin C and all these wonderful antioxidants, they come and they bind and they help to clean up so that we don't get the tissue damage from the oxidative stress. So oxidative stress and cellular damage are allowed to progress when we don't have the proper way to purge these from the body, which we're getting there. We're getting there, you guys. But yeah, so it does cause more free radical damage, and then it causes more neurodegenerative diseases. So the source of the plastic foods, we talked about that, but I did want to touch also on tea bags. So tea bags are a huge part of plastics. And I have a lot of people who, they don't like coffee, so they'll have tea in the morning. And tea bags are a huge source of plastic. So you can try to find plastic free, but I would just encourage you to get loose leaf tea. That exists far easier, I think, than trying to find a tea bag that doesn't have plastics in it. I thought that was a really surprising finding, was the tea bags. So we can get rid of that pretty easily. And then of course, your personal care products like exfoliants and toothpaste. Toothpaste have, they're in a plastic tube, has plasticizers in it. And so those are the big ones. And the clothing. So just trying to shift the clothing. And let's see. Yes. Hey, P squared. How are you? Oh, I saw you dropped in there earlier. Okay. And let me go back to this question, Silly Lily. I just saw this one. So source for salts and spices. I do just still try to stick with organic sources. I'm trying to remember. I can't remember the brand name that I like. And it tends to be a little more expensive. Is it Frontier? I think Frontier Co-op. I'll get a lot of spices from them. Bill says plastic production is expected to increase, potentially doubling or tripling by 2050. That is a scary thought. And I am going to read us some stats on plastic water bottles. Let me get down here. I had a lot of notes for today. Let's see. The plastic water bottles, I would probably have to say personally, I think that's probably our biggest source of microplastics. And you think about, first of all, people tend to buy cases of water and then they put them in their garage. Let's say it's summertime. You put them in your garage and then they get hot and you don't know where they've been in the warehouse and they get hot. Sun is beating on them, or it sits in your car. Let's say that plastic water bottle sits in your car and then you take it and you drink out of it. Anything that sits that is, so it's sitting, it's leaching the plastic, and then the sun hits it and then it gets warm. All of that is increasing your exposure. And so this is why I always encourage everybody to have a stainless steel water bottle, and then perhaps even reverse osmosis in your house is helpful. Even if it's just for the drinking water, it still would be helpful, because if it's coming through the shower head and then steam and then you can absorb it. But I think probably the more important piece is for the drinking water. And those are relatively, I think they're pretty inexpensive now. I have my filter that goes through my refrigerator. Not 100%, but that's what I have. I would love to do a whole house RO system, but that's probably about, $3,000 to $5,000. So let's talk about plastic water bottles. So 1 million worldwide, over 1 million plastic bottles are purchased every minute. Isn't that crazy? So 481.6 billion bottles annually worldwide. This is how much water we're consuming out of a bottle. A free resource in a bottle, and we are consuming it just constantly. In the US, the Americans consume approximately 50 billion plastic water bottles each year. 50 billion. And that's an average of 13 bottles per person per month. I feel like that's an underestimate because people are just walking around with water, plastic water bottles all the time. So I might put that higher, but I'm just looking at this source here. So, and then in 2024, bottled water consumption in the US reached 16.2 billion gallons, and that was a 2% increase from 2023. And then to Bill's comment there, only about 9% of plastic bottles are recycled. So this is where a lot of it is ending up in the environment. And of course, there's that the plastic island, the garbage island in the middle of the ocean, full of microplastics. The microplastics are getting into the fish. It's killing the sea life, the wildlife in the oceans, and it's really doing damage. And then let's say then you go to eat fish, and the fish now have microplastics in them. So even the wild caught fish are contaminated. Not as bad as the farm raised. So never, ever, ever eat farm raised fish. It's the worst, and it's going to be really, really high in plastic microplastics. Let me see. Okay. The production of plastic bottles consumes substantial resources, with the US bottled water industry using approximately 1.32 liters of water to produce 1 liter of bottled water. Isn't that crazy? Yeah, that's why they have to charge so much. Now, one of the things here that it says that if we're talking about tap water, we already know tap water has its own issues. So putting that aside, if you can switch from bottled water to filtered tap water, this says you can reduce your microplastic ingestion from 90,000 to 4,000 particulates annually. And that's pretty significant. Now, reverse osmosis is going to be your best option because it takes everything. And then, of course, if you are having reverse osmosis, or if you're listening to this and you have reverse osmosis, you do want to be making sure you're taking minerals, because RO is going to want to bind minerals in your body as it's leaving. And so it can actually cause a mineral depletion if you're not mindful of that. P Square said, Cheryl Crow actually said years ago that she believes the plastic water bottles caused her cancer. I wouldn't doubt it. And then, that, and then all the other plastics in the environment, everything. So yeah, interesting. Silly Lily. I've seen pallets of water sitting in front of big grocers in the full sun heat. I don't buy plastic water bottles for that reason because they have estrogenic chemicals. Yeah, so that's where when I was talking about the hormone disruptors, they jack your estrogens and they compete for your estrogen. So the best way to explain it is that when you have estrogen mimickers, all your hormones in the body work like a key and a lock, a key and a keyhole and a lock. So so let's say the hormone's the key, and then the lock, you've got the keyhole. And so the hormone goes in and it turns things on, it turns things off. That's how your hormones work. It's a very simplistic way of thinking about it, but just the visual. Now, what happens when you have hormone disruptors? So estrogens, I mean, it can affect any hormone in your body, really. But these estrogen mimickers, they come in. The key looks identical. You ever have that? Like you have a key and you put it, it goes into your lock, and you can't turn it. We all have had that where it's like almost identical, but you can't turn it. You can't get in the house. And then you're like, oh, wrong key. That's estrogen mimickers. They go in and they take up space in the receptor. So then the body's ability to turn on or off these hormones and do whatever they need to do is dramatically diminished. And that's how then you end up getting what we call estrogen dominance. And estrogen dominance, and this can happen in men too, but estrogen dominance looks like for women, it can be endometriosis, polycystic ovarian disease, fibroids. It can be infertility. Like estrogen dominance can cause a multitude of chronic illnesses. So it's really important to pay attention to that. You have a beautiful snowstorm. Love it. Thank you for sharing. We had ours a couple weeks ago, and now it's melted and it's 50 degrees. And now I'm like, oh, we had a couple good snowstorms and now we're done. And now that it's all melted, I'm like, okay, I'm ready for spring. But I do love a big, beautiful snowstorm. Thank you for sharing. P Square says, my in-laws have a reverse osmosis system on their well water, but then they drink tea in tea bags every day. Yeah. Yeah. So buy them loose tea. Yeah. Yes, it's 50 degrees here. The sun is shining. It's going to be 60 tomorrow. I'm super excited. All right, let me go back to my notes here, because we still have to get to how do we detox the body, right? I know that's what you're all waiting for, but I did just want to lay out like the gravity of this so that you just had a better understanding of the breadth of all of it, and this is also where you can be living super healthy. And then you're like, oh gosh, I ended up with like some kind of hormonal issue, or I'm having a terrible time going through menopause, or God forbid, cancer. And all of that, it can really build up. So I like to say too, like we have to control the controllables. We got to control the controllables. So a lot of this we're not going to be able to control. We can't control what they're spraying in the air, but we can certainly control what we're putting in our own bodies. So when those coffee makers came out for individual servings, I immediately thought scalding hot water and plastic doesn't mix. As sadly, I did buy one and I was like, oh, but I can get you can buy a thing that is not quite all plastic. But then I was like, I used it for a couple years, knowing what I know, right? I was like, it's got to be something super easy. And I couldn't do it. It's in a box. It's sitting in my garage. I'm like, I need to sell it. It was like a $200 Keurig. Yeah, I'm like, no. And there's no amount of not your non-toxic filters. I'm not buying it. So yeah, I know. To just crazy town. And then of course your tea, your Starbucks, your drink, your hot drinks in those plastic cups or paper cups. Those aren't working either. So, all right, here we go. So how do we detox the body naturally? What do we need to do? Think about, so first of all, it's elimination. again, what can you control? So start to think about your laundry detergent. Um, from a simplest perspective, making sure you're drinking enough water each and every day. I mean, most people are so dehydrated, and we need to be drinking enough water and staying hydrated to flush this stuff through our bodies, to give our liver an opportunity to flush it out, to give the kidneys a way to be able to flush things out. So, don't discount just this simple act of hydration, from a uh, glass, or stainless steel. Um, so so you're going to pay attention to that. And again, no heating in plastic. Just get rid of your microwave. Throw away your paper plates. It's okay to wash a plate. You'll be fine. You won't die if you have to wash a plate. Water with lemon. Yes, good. A coffee pot water chamber is plastic, heats in plastic, then strains through plastic into a glass carafe. Yeah. Well, so I have $1,000 Breville cappuccino machine, right? Everything about it is metal, stainless steel, except the water hopper. That's plastic. I'm like, come on, really? So, it's crazy. I know, we're just crazy. Okay, so let's talk about antioxidant-rich foods. So what can we be eating on a daily basis that's actually going to fuel and feed our brains? Our green leafy vegetables. I always go back to making sure you're eating vegetables from the brassica family. So that's your cabbage, your collard greens, your cauliflower, your kale, your broccoli. It's all of those that are super high in a compound called sulforaphane, which actually fights cancer. And sulforaphane is a really powerful antioxidant, and it's super powerful in helping detoxify in the liver, helping the liver to detoxify. So all of those, and then you get high fiber, and it keeps food and toxins moving through the digestive tract. Pinch of good quality sea salt in your water. It takes salt to allow the cells to uptake the water you drink. Otherwise, it just goes through you. Yes. Yes, ma'am. That's good advice. And then water with lemon. I love the antioxidant. So a organic lemon. So you can say the juice of one organic lemon a day. Omega-3 fatty acids. So, let me go back. Antioxidant-rich foods. So incorporating berries, lots and lots of berries. We do blueberries all the time. And blueberries are one of those things that the Environmental Working Group suggests that if you're going to have them, blueberries and strawberries, it's on the dirty dozen list, which means you should be purchasing them organically if you're going to have them. Nuts are very high in antioxidants, but you need to make sure you're buying raw nuts. You don't want the roasted nuts because they tend to be roasted in like soybean oil or vegetable oil or some other kinds of like highly inflammatory seed oil. Making sure you're getting enough omega-3 fatty acids. Our diets are really top heavy in omega-6 fatty acids, which are super inflammatory. And omega-6 comes from, so like, fish in general is supposed to be high in omega-3 fatty acids. Farm-raised fish is super high in omega-6, the inflammatory fatty acids, because of their toxic soup that they're being raised in. So that's why you do want the deep water fish, because it may have some microplastics, but it's going to be far less, and it's going to be higher in omega-3 fatty acids. Grass-fed beef is also shown to be higher in omega-3 fatty acids. So, and then of course you can take a high quality fish oil, and you're looking for around 1,500 to 2,000 EPA and DHA in combination. And you'll look at the back of the label, and it'll tell you what the combination of EPA, DHA. Don't just look at the front. Like the ones at Costco, it says 1,000 milligrams or 1,000 units. And then you turn it over, and the EPA, DHA combination is like 350 or 400, which means now you got to take 3 to 4 of them to get the proper dosage. So, a lot of times people will look at a supplement and they'll be like, why? Oh, that's so expensive. Let me get the cheaper one. But then the cheaper one, you got to take multiple time, such a high amount of that it actually ends up being more expensive. So flax seeds, walnuts, excellent sources of omega-3 fatty acids. And I love walnuts. They're so great. But again, make sure you're buying the raw sources. Hydration, I touched on hydration. And of course, as P Square said, I love, having a little bit of lemon and then a little pinch of sea salt in the water for your electrolytes. High quality sea salt. So other things that we can do, regular exercise. If we are sweating, that cardiovascular, the breathing, so we're eliminating toxins through the breath. That's one way. And then when we sweat, we eliminate toxins through our pores. And the interesting thing is that when you are eliminating toxins through your pores, so let's say you're sweating. So I go to hot yoga. I come out of there drenched. I immediately want to shower. I want to rinse that off because we're purging all of these toxins. But then if you leave, like a lot of people just change and then they leave, I hope they go home and shower. But if you don't shower right away and rinse that off, then now you're just leaving those toxins you've sweat off on the skin to reabsorb. So thinking about that, like if you're sweating a lot, you got to rinse it off. You got to get rid of that or it's going to go back into the system. Ken says, do not get the cheaper vitamins. It's not a good deal. No, it is not. Yes, exactly. Nuts come in plastic. Yes, they do. I have these walnuts, the most amazing walnuts, and I get them from a lady here. They're the English walnuts. And she cracks them by hand, one by one. Bill, if you're still on, you know who I'm talking about, Hilda Oaks. And she cracks them by hand. So she grows them. And they come out gigantic nut meats. I've never had walnuts taste like this before. They're super, you can taste the oils in them. They're almost sweet. They're really amazing. But then she puts it in a plastic bag and sells them to us. And so again, it's kind of like, where do we stop, right? Like Planters nuts used to come in a foil lined cardboard can. Oh, right. Yeah. And it's all plastic now. I know. I forgot about that. P Squared. I love the smell of Metagenics BPA fish oil. That's funny. That's funny. Well, it's healthy for you then, right? Planters also used to come in a glass jar. That's right. With a vacuum sealed metal lid. Yeah, that's right. Charge me more for I'll pay for the glass jar. I'm good with that. I'm good with that. Chlorella binds to heavy metals and flushes out the body. Do not use spirulina. It's also been shown to block natural B12. It has a pseudo B12 that fills ports in the endocannabinoid system. That is interesting. I did not know that. I was going to say also, there's a supplement you can take. So I'm going through just things that we can do without supplementation. So regular exercise, sweating, mental stimulation, and then I'll talk about supplements in a second, but mental stimulation. So challenging your brain with puzzles, reading, learning new skills, that helps keep the neurons firing and it helps to build neural pathways. The brain is what's called plastic, which means, or neuroplastic, which means it can still grow new, new nerve endings, new neural pathways. And so when you're constantly challenging your brain, you have less opportunity for the oxidative stress to cause damage. And then, of course, prioritizing sleep. When we sleep, that's when our brains actually cleanse themselves. So it's going to heal and purge and make sure that it builds those new cellular pathways while we're sleeping. And so good quality sleep. If you don't have good quality sleep, then we need to talk and help get your sleep on track. I've done a bunch of videos on sleep. So by all means, please go and find some of those sleep videos. But if you're not sleeping, you're not healing. Sleep is the cornerstone to all things good health. So those are just some of the simple things. So super high antioxidant rich foods, making sure you're getting good omega-3 fatty acids. And again, if you can get most of this stuff from food, great, and hydration to get everything flushed out. So some of the ways that I supplement. So sorry, guys. So some of the ways I supplement. So I always recommend a detox. I love the Metagenics products that also come in a plastic container. And it's crazy. Their powders come in a plastic container. Some of them they put in a bag, a foil lined bag. I don't know. Anyway, but that has specific nutrients in it that actually helps to increase the liver's ability to filter out toxins. It's the only product on the market that I know of that actually increases the speed of the liver's ability to detoxify. And that's really important. So I just did detox with the doc last month. I'll probably do another one in the fall. If you want to do a detox, reach out to me. Let me go ahead and give you the, let me drop the link here. And one of the, sorry guys, struggling. Why is that? Okay, there we go. So what I love also about this detox, this called the Clear Change program, is that there we go. This uses a product called Ultra Clear Renew, and Ultra Clear Renew is really special because it has metallothioneine in it, and metallothioneine is it actually helps your body. So we produce some metallothioneine, and then this has metallothioneine. It helps your body produce or purge heavy metals. So that's what we're looking for, is we really want to get rid of the heavy metals, pull that from the brain. So if it's going to pull heavy metals from the brain, then I make the assumption that it can also pull plastics, because the metallothioneine in the Ultra Clear Renew, again, it's the only thing that crosses the blood-brain barrier where the heavy metals and the plastics live, and it helps your body to then purge that out. So I love the Ultra Clear Renew for that reason, because it will go in. People start to talk about, they get more clarity in their thoughts. They start to sleep better. Their hormones start to function better. They don't have cravings anymore. That program is a freaking rock star. And if you have questions on it, just please reach out to me. And I would love to, see everybody going through that. So whatever happened to Save a Tree, use plastic shopping bags? Yeah, exactly. Right. And Bill, yes, Michigan grown nuts are the best. You talking about us, or are you talking about the actual food nuts, right? Silly Lily, isn't it amazing when you think about what foods you're packaged in? The vast majority is I know it is. It's crazy. Like, it's everywhere. That's why I'm saying we can't escape it. So pick something. I did say in a video not too long ago that the one thing that everybody needs to get rid of is laundry detergent and dryer sheets. I do use the Ecos brand. It's coconut based. I don't use dryer sheets, but and some people, like, there's these, they're called soap nuts. I've never used those. I'm told they work pretty well. But that, because if you think about laundry detergent, you're sleeping in it, your pajamas have it, your clothing that you wear all day. So you're constantly bathed in the toxic chemicals of your laundry detergent, those plasticizers, those microplastics, and they're in your clothes now, and you're wearing them, and then they're in your sheets, and then you're sweating. If you have a hot flash at night, it's going to get into the pores. So I think that if you start anywhere, it's get rid of that, make that change, right? Hey, thanks for being here, Mad Chick Acres. Great to see you. And I'll make sure I go look for that email from you. See ya. Thanks for joining us. Yeah, too heavy to ship, shipping costs for sure. I know. It all comes down to cost. They don't care about our health. So, yeah. So, so that's why this is such a big subject, because it can just be so overwhelming. You're just like, well, holy heck, what the heck? Like it's everywhere. It is everywhere. So control what you can control. Start with the laundry detergent, then start with your body care products. Those are easy swaps, right? Food's a whole new beast when it comes to making sure that you're not getting plastics, because like I said, everything comes in a wrapper. Everything's it's hard to buy things in a jar anymore, and so that's why I'm saying you have to pick your battles with the plastics. So look around your house and see what is something you can do today. What's one thing? Maybe maybe you start making your own yogurt. I don't know. I know that's a big ask for a lot of people, but if you can do that, then, if you're somebody, you're like, oh, I love yogurt. I mean, think about all the plastic. We have this really amazing, healthy food, and then we add sugar to it or artificial sweeteners, and then we put it in plastic and we tell people that's supposed to be good for them. Like, it's just not. Lily says, when I see the commercials now, I shake my head. Just think of how much chemical they have to put in a product where the scent lingers for 8 weeks. I know. Like, what? No, thank you. Oh my gosh. And then the perfumes. Oh my gosh. I've had 2 patients that I've had to tell them to stop wearing perfume, because it causes my throat to get all scratchy. Like, I feel my throat swelling up. And both times they were like, oh my God, I don't even smell it. And I'm like, yeah, I know. Because you're using so much of it. You've killed your olfactory bulb. You've killed your sense of smell. And interestingly enough, also, both of those clients dropped out of care. Didn't tell me they were leaving. I think I just offended them. But I mean, listen, I'm not here to lie to people. I really, because then also both of those people that I can think of, they both had anxiety, depression. They were super wired. They weren't thinking, they weren't sleeping properly. They had issues with hormonal issues, menopause. Like, it's like that's a big deal. Get rid of that stuff. Detergent aisle in the grocery store definitely smell. Yeah, for sure. I know, you just walk down there and you're like, oof, man. I know I walk down the aisle at Costco, I get that Ecos, and then I'm like, I'm out of there. And then, like I say, I walked through the perfume aisle and it was crazy. There's a guy in yoga who he goes in the shower after yoga, and I don't know what he does in there, but he comes out, first of all, and he's destroyed the bed. There is water everywhere, and he's a little guy too. And I'm like, did you not bring a towel? How did you get that much water outside of the shower? It's literally like he was in the shower, like throwing water on the floor. But besides that, so then, but he uses some spray. I don't even know what it is. I don't know if it's his soap. I don't know if it's a body spray. I have no idea. So one day I made the mistake. I went in there after he was done, and I was like, okay, I literally couldn't put my bag down anywhere because there was so much water. And the smell, I was like, oh, it'll dissipate quickly. And the smell, it got into my mouth, you guys. I was tasting it. And it was and then I showered and I got dressed and I left. I had to come home and take another shower because I could still smell it on me. And it smelled like Right Guard or something. Like, it was something disgusting like that. But that's what I mean. It's like, it's invasive. It's like it's like secondhand smoke when other people have all of those toxic chemicals going on as well. Um, yes, the candles, the soap, yeah, the candle. Oh my God, Yankee Candle. When you walk by Yankee Candle at the mall, holy moly. Um, Thanks to those on the chat. You've got me thinking more about plastics. I have to get rid of coffee maker. I want to get a percolator for the stove, glass and stainless steel. That's a great idea. I'm not ready to get rid of. I love my cappuccino machine. I wish there was a way to well, I was going to say you could plumb it, but it'd be coming through plastic tubing, right? It's like, oh, I just can't get rid of it. Yeah. Yeah, my dad, I grew up, my dad used a percolator. He had the glass percolator. Yep. Yeah. All right, you guys, I think that was all I had in my notes, but I did want to just present to you that study, where it's all coming from. It is overwhelming. Again, we didn't even talk about the chemtrails and all the garbage coming from the sky and the airplanes and all of that. We didn't even get into that because we cannot control it. I'm sure we could go on a rant with that, but we can't control it. So, it just, just is what it is. Stay away from the pretty candles, very toxic chemical soup. Yes. Beeswax candles. Yeah, those are lovely. And yeah, you're right. We tend to think of things that are toxic for us as like not smelling good or anything, but a lot of it is like the stuff that smells the best, right? Your perfumes, your lotions, your Yankee candles, all of that stuff. So yeah. I have a French press, and I stopped using it because I love this cappuccino machine. And I have a very particular. I weigh my coffee. Like this is how like ridiculous I am about my coffee. I weigh I have to have it ground at a certain grind, number 4, right? So I buy the beans, I grind it on number 4, and then this is my French press. And then I do 70 grams of grounds, and then I do 1,300 grams of water. I mean, I like my coffee strong. Give it a stir, let it sit, and then I run it through a pour over, a paper funnel that is BPA free and unbleached. So there's that. But then I do a pour over and I get the rest, like any silt or anything from the grinds, and it makes really good coffee. So yeah. I know. Are you laughing at me because I weigh my coffee? Yeah. I weigh it all out. I'm like, I'm not messing around when it comes to my coffee. Yeah. Yeah. Stay away from the plugins. I mean, those things are like, again, when I get near that stuff, I start to get a scratchy throat. You can just feel the toxins coming through that. So, all right, you guys, this is great. Thank you so much for your engagement. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. I hope this was helpful. And again, I never want anybody to walk away from this frustrated. So I just want to encourage you, do one thing, control what you can control. And you can, you got to start somewhere. I have been putting together a list, like a home checklist. What are all the different places that you can look and start to go, oh, I don't need that. I don't need the Glade plugins. Like we use essential oil diffusers, and those are wonderful, right? So that's a really great way to get nice, pretty scent. I use essential oil roll-ons for perfume because I do like, we like pretty smelling things. Fire Chief here said fire hazard, the Glade plugins. Oh, that's interesting. That doesn't surprise me. Does not surprise me. So, all right, you guys, have an amazing week. Thanks, P Squared. Have a great week yourself. You guys are awesome. Thanks for being here. I hope I answered all your questions, and I hope you're not frustrated and you're going to go do something about some of these microplastics. And don't forget that link to the detox. And if you have any questions, just shoot me an email. So, all right. Thanks, you guys. We'll see you Thursday for Chiropractic is Sexy. Tomorrow is an episode of Reset Monday, kind of wrapping this up a little bit, distilling it down. And then I'll see you next week again. So, all right. Thanks again for being here. Appreciate it. And we'll talk to you guys soon. Have an awesome week.